When it comes to a tech everyday carry, I always find it really fascinating how one simple setup can be so different from a different one. I've seen plenty of videos on YouTube, I'm sure you guys have seen them as well, where someone will take their whole desk setup with them wherever they're going. They'll take one of those crossbodies or sling bags with them just so that they can carry a gaming system, so they can carry a tablet, their phone, some extra chargers. And I personally fall more in the company or in the group of people that actually likes to take more of the essentials, something a little bit more minimalistic. And that's mainly for me because I don't like carrying an extra bag, basically everything that fits in my pocket. So I like to keep it minimal and I like to keep only the essentials. For the total, I only carry a total of 5 different items with me, 3 of which have not changed for the past couple of years. I count these more as general items because they're not really something that's changing. They're not really anything that I'm thinking of changing up in the near future. And the first 2 are just the basic keys. I do have keys for my apartment and for any of the amenities here at the apartment complex. And then I do have my wallet, which is from Bullstrap. They're a company that I worked with a couple years ago, and I really like their wallet. Really great leather, really great texture, really great quality. And then lastly, it's the headphones, which are the AirPods Pro. And I feel like this doesn't really come as a surprise to anyone. I feel like the majority of YouTubers, the majority of people will go with the AirPods Pro over any other in-ear headphones. And I personally really like the AirPods Pro, especially with the compatibility. At work, I do use a Mac and I do have an iPhone that I use as a bike computer or a bike navigating system for whenever I'm bike commuting to work. So it is nice that my AirPods will connect to the iPhone automatically, and then when I get to work, if I have a meeting I need to jump onto, I don't need to reconnect, I don't need to reset up these headphones. As soon as I open up the headphones, they recognize that I'm using the laptop and I'm about to jump on a meeting or listen to music or whatever, and they'll automatically connect to the Mac as well. And as for the sound quality, I do think it's really great. I mainly use them for podcasts and also meetings. So it is a lot of speech and not as much like instruments and bass and treble and all of that. So I am going to leave the YouTuber's review of Josh Valour, who's another YouTuber who kind of is in the headphone space. And he always recommends the AirPods Pros, the second generation at the very least, as one of the best listening experiences. And because he is kind of a big authority in the headphone space, I am going to take his word for it. I'm going to leave that review down in the description so you guys can check it out yourselves as well. The next piece in my everyday carry is going to be my phone, and it is a Samsung Galaxy Fold 5. I've recently jumped ship from the iOS over to Android and chose this folding phone as my main driver. And after using it for the past 3 months, I really do think that this is one of the best phones out there, and it is going to be the future of phones for everyone overall. But I am curious to see why you guys don't have folding phones in your pocket. Let me know down in the comments what is one reason why you guys are staying away from folding phones and are still staying with the same slab phone. And to clarify, I am talking more about the horizontal folding phones rather than what they call the flip phones that open up more in the vertical position, just because I do think that having a phone that can do 2 things, being a normal use phone as well as a tablet at the same time, is going to be a huge benefit for a lot of people. And like I said, in a lot of everyday carry videos, you do see people carrying around a small tablet with them just so they can get more productivity focused tasks done. So I do think that having a phone that can serve as a regular cell phone and then turn into a tablet is a huge plus, and I do think it is going to be the future for a lot of people. And another thing to back that up is that when you really think about it, not really us, but the general public, a lot of them don't really have a computer where they can do a lot of things. For everyone, their computer is their phone. And when a lot of these phones are kind of releasing at the 800 plus range, it makes sense that they're going to use a phone as their main driver for everything they want to do. They can check their email, respond to email, they can watch videos, they can go on social media, they can download PDFs, you can now sign PDFs, you can do everything on a single phone. So it makes sense that a lot of people in the general public don't really own a computer and instead use their phone for every single thing. And then if you think about it, a company like Apple actually had to ditch their mini line instead and go for a plus line because a lot of the public really wanted that plus phone rather than having a mini phone. Even though there is kind of a niche market for mini phones or smaller phones, the majority of the public or the general public doesn't really care about a small screen, because when they're purchasing a phone, they want something that's going to be larger so they can watch all their content, go and scroll through social media, and use it for everything that they're going to need it for. And to me, the folding phones is going to be a huge solve to that problem, because now you have a regular cell phone whenever it's in the closed version. It's more of the mini right now. And if you go with other companies like OnePlus or Google, you will have a more passport like front of it. And if you do trust the renders of the Fold 6 that's going to be coming out, it might also go in that direction instead. I personally don't really mind the small screen, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind it being a little bit wider, just because it is very narrow, so it is a little bit difficult to type, especially if you're someone that uses 2 fingers to type rather than using a swipe keyboard. And I do have a more in-depth review coming up for the Galaxy Fold 5, so make sure you guys get subscribed so you guys don't miss that future video. I can go more in-depth into what I liked and didn't like about the Fold 5. Obviously, it is something that I'm going to recommend. I really like the folding phone, but there are some things that I wish are going to be changed in the next iteration. As for the watch, I did go with the Garmin Epix Pro, and I still think that this is one of the best designed smartwatches or fitness trackers out there. I really like the design of this Garmin over any other watch I have seen, and I did make a video a few months ago as to why I ditched Garmin instead and went with a Galaxy Ultra. I did try kind of dual carrying 2 different phones and 2 different ecosystems, but in the end that didn't really work. It was a little bit more work than I anticipated to carry 2 different phones. So I did go back to kind of simplifying and only going to the Android side of it. And because I do stand by what I said 3 months ago about the Galaxy Watch 6, that it is a little bit slow, it is a little bit more laggy and kind of less refined than something like an Apple Watch Ultra as far as smartwatches go, I did go back instead to a Garmin that's going to be a better fitness tracker, and it's going to still do some of those smartwatch capabilities, even though it's not up to on par with something like the Galaxy Watch 6 or the Apple Watch Ultra. It has enough smartwatch features that I can use, especially because I use my watch mainly as a notification tracker rather than using it kind of more to use those third-party apps. And because it does lack a lot of those smartwatch features, the Garmin actually really excels at having great battery life. It doesn't have to maintain all those apps. It doesn't have to constantly be refreshing them and making sure they're all up to date. And because of that, I get 6 to 7 days of battery life on my Garmin, compared to something like the Apple Watch Ultra that was going to be that Ultra watch with longer battery life, where I only received up to 2 days. And I really like using the Garmin with those physical buttons, because there are times where I'm just really sweaty during a workout, and kind of using the touchscreen can become a pain, especially on the Garmin that is already a little bit less responsive than an Apple Watch Ultra. So being able to use those physical buttons is really great to kind of go through the settings, pause your workout, restart your workout, or whatever it may be. And then the last thing is that the Apple Watch Ultra has one action button, whereas the Garmin you can kind of program to have different hotkeys for different combinations of buttons. You can click and hold to kind of bring anything else, and that's really useful, especially for me, because the Garmin doesn't have a smart assistant, or the Garmin Epix doesn't have a smart assistant. Some of the other watches do have a smart assistant, but they're a lot more limited, obviously, than something first party. But anyways, the Garmin Epix doesn't have a smart assistant, so I've been using the hotkeys to do something like start a stopwatch, set an alarm, bring up Garmin Pay, all of those other features that you would get from a smart assistant or from a quick action on a smartwatch. Garmin can do it as well, and I like that you can program all of the hotkeys straight into the physical buttons. And that brings me to my final point, which is why I ditched iOS. A lot of the past few years, I've actually been on iOS as my everyday carry. And the biggest reason why I left it was because it was always the same exact thing year after year. Now, that isn't to say that I don't like iOS. I still think it's a really good ecosystem. Like I said, especially if you have the Mac, you have the iPad, the Apple TV, it's really great for all of your devices to be connected all into one. I just personally feel like it just kind of was stagnant year after year. I even tried switching things up. For my Apple Watch, I had the Apple Watch 1, then made the jump to the SE first generation. then to the Series 7, then to the Ultra, back to the Series 7, stainless steel this time, and then ultimately back to the Ultra, which is what I have right now. And let me tell you that they're all the exact same. And it's not only their Apple Watch lineup. I did the exact same thing with iPhones. I started with the iPhone 12 back in 2020. Then I switched to the 13 Pro, then to the 14 Pro Max, and ultimately back to the 15 Pro. And if you see there in my line of upgrades year after year, I actually was looking for something different within iPhones. I went from the normal 12 to the 13 Pro, seeing, oh, the Pro version might have some more features that I really like. Ultimately, it really didn't. So then I went to the 14 Pro Max thinking, oh, maybe if I have a bigger screen, I can use it as my everyday camera. I can shoot photos. I can take lots of video. And again, ultimately, I didn't. So then I went back to the 15 Pro now, where now I can use it as a B camera just because of the Apple ProRes log. So I can use it as a B camera, but ultimately still, it's not my main phone. One thing I did learn from all of those experiences though was that I really did like the large screen of the 14 Pro Max. I just didn't like carrying that large brick in my pocket. So that's why I went with the folding phone instead. I've always been a fan of Android. Long ago, I actually started with the Galaxy S8 as my first flagship phone. So I was really excited to go back to Samsung, get another one of their flagship phones and see how it handles. And I really enjoyed my experience with the Fold 5, which is why I kept it and sent in my 14 Pro Max. But for now, I'm going to stick to my iPhone for commuting purposes only, paired up with my AirPods. I do like that I can charge my phone only once a week, just like my Garmin now, because I'm only using it for bike commutes. But I'm interested to know what you guys think of my everyday carry. Is this something that's similar to what you guys are carrying? Do you guys really think that folding phones are going to be the future for the general market? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching. Click here to watch another one of my videos, and I will catch you guys on the next one.